If you'd like to learn how to make these beautiful homemade hamburger buns, well then you just keep watching. Welcome back to my pantry. I'm Mimi, or Julie to everyone except my grandkids. So tonight I'm planning chicken burgers and fries for dinner tonight. That was actually at the request of our 6-year-old granddaughter who is spending the night. She has Girl Scouts tonight, so whatever I fix for dinner has to be something quick and easy. That's why she wanted the chicken burgers. She loves them, but she knows they're very quick and easy. Problem is, I don't have hamburger buns. I could have my husband stop at the store on his way home from work and pick some up, but I really don't want to have to spend money unnecessarily, especially since I already have all of the ingredients here at home to make my own. They're quick, they're easy to do, and they are so much more delicious than store-bought ever thought of being. You just wait until you try them, because you are going to try them. They're that easy. So let's get started. I have all of my ingredients set out. I have already warmed my milk and proofed my yeast. So to my bowl, I am going to add a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1 egg, and 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Just going to stir that around and get it mixed up really well. And then to that, I'm going to add my milk and yeast mixture. I let this sit for probably about 10 minutes before I poured it in. So, okay. So now, once this is all mixed in, I'm going to add 3½ cups of flour. I'm going to actually do between 3 and 3½ I may not need that half, so 1, 2, 3. That's what I'm going to start with. And I'm going to stir that, mix it around. I also want to add some salt, about a teaspoon of salt. This is just regular sea salt, so I usually use pink Himalayan, but I don't have any here in the pantry. I took it out and into the kitchen yesterday for something I was using. Haven't brought it back in. Okay, so let's mix that around. It's kind of raggy looking, and that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear my surface here and flour my board. I like to put a lot of flour on here and then move it aside and then bring it back in as I need it. Okay, so we're going to move that dough onto the board. Now this is not like a bread dough where it's going to rise like a whole lot, like you're going to see like a really big rise in it. It's just a small rise. I want to knead this first for about 5 or 6 minutes. I should have floured my hands. Just 5 or 6 minutes is all it needs, but you do want to knead it because that's going to activate the gluten in the flour. I love to knead bread. If you've watched my bread making video, then you know that already. I just enjoy it. I don't know, there's something in it that's repetitive and meditating for me. If you've never been a bread maker, you should really start. It's a lot easier than you think. I know that there's a lot of different things that can be quite intimidating for first-time bread makers, or anybody who's never made anything from scratch before. I get it. I was there once, and I always thought, oh my word, I could totally mess this up. I couldn't do this. But if you mess it up, you just start again. I mean, it's not a big deal. It takes practice like anything else. You don't get good at it the first time you do it. I used to watch my grandmother make bread. I loved it. That top part of your arm, when you get older, it kind of flaps in the wind. I used to put my hand under that part of her arm and just let that flap scrape across the palm of my hand. Oh, I loved that. I remember that. That's such a good memory for me growing up. She'd make her bread, and I'd always see that piece of skin hanging and just wagging in the wind. Those are love memories, I think. See how this is getting smoother and smoother as I'm going along? See how smooth that is? And it's just the elasticity in it. It's that gluten coming together and forming a really great bread, because you really want that gluten to form. If you've never made hamburger buns before, I hope that you try. I really want to take the mystery out of it for you and show you that this is a really easy thing to do. I first did it because, well, out of necessity, I guess. I didn't have any hamburger buns, and I thought, well, you know what? Where there's a will, there's a way. I can make these. I know I can. If you can make bread, you can make hamburger buns. And I was so glad that I did, because they're so much tastier than regular ones you buy at the store. I mean, they're just amazing. Okay, so I want to take this, and look how nice this is. I'm going to put this in the bowl and let it rise. Just going to put it right back in that same bowl. It's not going to hurt it a bit. I'm going to put a cloth over it. I'm going to set it next to the cook stove, because I do have a fire going today, and let that rise, and we'll get back to it once it's done. Alright, our dough has had time to rise. Now what I want to do is, I want to form this into, oh, look at it. Isn't that nice? I want to form this into 4 big balls. Oh. Okay, so then I'm going to take those 4 and split them in 2. I don't really have a technique for this, as you can see, but this is the best way I know how to get 8, because this recipe does make 8 buns. Alright, and I'm just going to kind of keep turning these under. You can see on the bottom, they're not going to look pretty, but they will once they're all cooked. Just going to keep turning them under until I get a nice smooth top. How nice that is. And I am putting these onto a greased, or excuse me, parchment lined pan, which I'll show you in just a second. Okay, so now that we have them all on the pan, there's 8 of them. We're going to put them out by the cook stove and let them rise. I think they're ready for the next step. This is the next step, and all I'm doing is putting an egg wash over the top of them. This is going to create a really beautiful golden coating to them. They're gonna look just like they were store-bought, but they're going to taste a whole lot better. These are going to be so delicious. I cannot wait. I am not a hamburger bun person at all, generally, but these have totally changed my world. Okay, so on top of that, I'm going to sprinkle a few little sesame seeds because we want to make them look really nice. I mean, we eat with our eyes first, right? Don't have to be perfect. I am not somebody who is a perfectionist when it comes to cooking. I just want to have fun. I just want to enjoy the process because it is something that is to be enjoyed, not intimidating. I don't want you to feel stressed when baking from scratch. I don't want you to feel like you can't do it or you don't measure up, because you have all of the abilities to do this and more. Look how good these look. Here we go. Now let's get them in the oven. A couple of things that I want to go over with you before the hamburger buns are ready. You can freeze these. They are freezable, just like any bread. I have a package here that, there's 3 left in this package actually that I pulled out of the freezer. My husband and I don't eat all 8 all at once. Unless we're having a big crowd, it's just the 2 of us, so we just kind of take them as we need them, so it's really good to throw them into the freezer. And what I like to do is, right after the first rise, I form them into buns and I place them on my tray. That's when I put them in the freezer. If I'm going to freeze them, I'm not going to let them rise that second time. I'm going to take that tray, however many I want to freeze, and I'm going to put that right into the freezer. I'm going to let those freeze rock solid. Then I'm going to put them into a freezer bag or a freezer container. I put parchment paper in between mine. You don't need to. Obviously it doesn't make a difference because they're falling out of the parchment paper, but that's what I did. So you can put these in the freezer and they will last for about 3 months. They won't last though because you'll be eating them. Just want to add that in there. But they just take them out of the freezer when you're ready to use them, put them on your sheet and let them thaw and rise. Once they've risen, then that's when you can take your egg wash to them and your sesame seeds. Which brings me to the next thing. You are not restricted to just sesame seeds. You can cook them plain. You can just do an egg wash, however you want to do it. You can add minced onion to the top after the egg wash. You can add chopped fresh rosemary. I've done that one before. It is so good, so good. You can add a little bit of garlic. You can add Parmesan cheese. There's so many avenues. But make them and try it all out for yourself. You will be pleasantly surprised at how good these really are. And they are so simple. No excuses. You can do this. I know you can do this. Cooking from scratch is not hard. It's doable for everyone. They're out of the oven. Look how delicious they look. The egg wash has them nice and golden brown. They look so good. I love stuff cooked in this cook stove. You can see on this side, that was the part next to the fire box. I didn't get them turned quite in time like I like, but that's okay. They're still just beautiful. These are still pretty warm, but I do want to give you a little example of what they look like inside. Just going to pull them apart. You can see here where they come apart. And what you're going to do is, they're still so warm. It's not advisable to do this while they're warm. You should really let them sit and wait. Cool down, but that's okay. Okay. Look at this. Doesn't that look amazing? I mean, these are just so delicious. Oh boy, I can't wait to try them. Thank you for joining me today. If you're new, I hope you consider subscribing below and leave me a thumbs up if you liked this video. I'd love to know where you're from, so leave me a comment below. And thank you for joining me here at Mimi's Pantry.